Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of Backpack to Briefcase for fall 2021. Today we've got Jeremy Schumann, an Aggie alum with an unconventional background from addiction recovery to startups. Jeremy not only understands the power of traditional branding, but also the power of social strategies to optimize how messages travel throughout the world. Jeremy uses an untraditional background and insatiable curiosity about people, culture, and motivation to constantly pioneer new ways to solve business problems or change the game entirely. Today, he is joining us just in time for the Career Expo this fall to talk about how students can truly connect with employers and sell themselves to land their dream job. Good morning and welcome, Jeremy. It's nice to have you.
Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
Go ahead, take it away.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm thrilled to share some strategies and some tactics that helped me in my career. And the title of my presentation is How to Truly Connect to Land Your Dream Job. When I was originally in discussions with Utah State on what to talk about, our prompt was originally to how to sell yourself in 30 seconds or less. And I think selling yourself is definitely a part of landing your dream job and excelling in your career. But really what's worked for me isn't just talking about myself. It's really finding ways to truly connect and offer value to potential employers before you even get hired. And that's led me to a lot of exciting places in my career. To dive deeper into my background is, so my background, I graduated from Utah State. I kicked off my career, I worked in Salt Lake for about a year, and then I kicked off my career in New York, where I worked agency side. So if you're familiar with marketing, there's agency side and there's brand side. Agency side, you're in charge of really coming up with the marketing campaigns, the creative, like what's the strategy, what's the creative, how do we bring that to life, what's the tagline, what does it look like? Does it come to life on social media, on TV, at the Super Bowl, on billboards? How does it really come to life? And so I kickstarted my career. I broke into some of the top agencies in the world in New York and Los Angeles. And a little tidbit is I didn't know anybody in the industry at all. I had a dream to work at a top marketing agency and eventually at a top brand doing marketing. And I didn't know anybody. And these strategies are some learnings that some of them I developed on my own. Some of them I learned from other mentors, but they led me to work on all these brands you can see above. As I kicked off my career in New York, I worked on the launch of Adobe Creative Cloud and Visa. I then went to LA and I worked on Apple, Airbnb, the Grammys, Google, Facebook, all these bigger brands, and actually worked at the agency that launched Apple. I worked with the team that wrote Think Different and some of the most iconic ads of our time. And I learned a lot from them in LA. And now I've recently made a transition about a year ago to go brand side. After about 8 years as an agency, learning how to be almost a Navy SEAL marketer I can dive in and write a marketing campaign and create great marketing for almost any project or any industry. Now I'm leading marketing internally for one of the biggest brands in the world. So I work at Instagram now on their global brand strategy team, which we really have to define what Instagram means today and what should it mean to our users and what does it mean in a world with so many evolving and different opportunities of apps to use in your time, from using Netflix or watching HBO Max on your phone to using Snap or Twitter or TikTok. What is Instagram's brand and why should you keep using it in existing markets? So that's some of our marketing that's going live actually next week in the United States and the UK. But then we're also launching globally around the world. We have over 1 billion users and we're launching in new markets. So we really have to explain and market what is the Instagram app. So this is a dream job for me. I'm really thrilled to be here. And now I'm really working on building a best-in-class brand from the inside. But I didn't get here by chance. I had some specific strategies that helped me land at my dream agencies and my dream job. And my goal here is to share those with you today. Diving into that a bit, I start with this graph of coming out of college, you want your dream job, but how do you cross that gap? The first piece of advice I want to share is you don't want your dream job right out of college. You want the building blocks that will lead to your dream job. You don't want to be at the bottom of the food chain when you're starting your dream job. You'd rather come in more mid-level or senior level. So take pressure off yourself, but also you want to set yourself up for success. So how could you land at a great job at your dream job for that point in your life to really set you up for where you want to go? And the reality for that is the basics aren't enough. Maybe other people have better luck at this than I do. But just applying online and submitting your resume and submitting over LinkedIn has never really led to a job for me. It's led to interviews and things like that, but it was never at like the big companies I really wanted to work at. So the basics of just applying online aren't enough. And also for any big job at like a Nike or an Instagram or an Airbnb or any big brand you're really excited about, they get thousands and thousands and thousands of online resumes. So how do you really stand out? So my strategy for that is that opportunities to sell yourself are really hard to come by. You need to create your own. And going back to the original prompt we had of selling yourself in 30 seconds, yeah, that's a part of landing your dream job, and I'll talk about that. But how do you create those opportunities for yourself? How often do you actually sit in an elevator with a CEO or CMO and have this opportunity to sell yourself, right? So my goal is to show you some strategies on how to develop opportunities to do that, and then how to do that really effectively. A good summary of what I do as a strategist is I apply focus. And this is a metaphor I use a lot. A 100-watt light bulb can light up a room, and a 100-watt laser can cut through steel. Same energy, different focus. My goal here today is to show you all what focus and what strategies I use to help land my dream jobs instead of just applying online. A great example of lighting up a room would be applying online for tons of jobs. But my strategies are a little more focused of how do you find a way in that's more compelling and sets you apart. So going into that a little deeper, these are the 3 strategies that kick-started my career from right when I graduated from Utah State and continue to fuel my moves today. And going into that from the beginning, we'll see if this keynote will load, is there's kind of 3 steps that I'll break into in this presentation today. So first off, it's how to create top opportunity with your dream companies. As I mentioned, you don't really get on an elevator that often with a CMO of Instagram. Where do you create those opportunities to really sell yourself? And then once you have those opportunities, how do you connect with those in power, truly connect with them so that they'll want to hire you, and then you actually sell yourself and your story. But before you even try to sell yourself, you got to connect with them to land your dream job. So these are the 3 points we'll dive into. And the first one is networking, right? How do you create those opportunities with your dream companies? Obviously, you can look on their job board, but that's really the bare minimum. As we talked about, those basics aren't enough. So my approach is to get a little more strategic with that. So doing a little bit of strategy right here, the goal here is dream job at your dream company. And this tactic I have shared with a lot of other college kids around the world and help people land dream jobs at brands like Nike, at Apple, me at Instagram. But you want this dream job at a dream company, but how do you get there, right? And really my strategy is that first off, we know the challenge of applying and waiting for them to get back to you isn't super effective. But the way that really works for me is what I call is creating your own Trojan horse, or go to them and get referred from the inside. And it doesn't matter if you don't know anybody. At all the agencies or brands I've worked at today, I knew nobody that worked there before. All I did was apply this strategy that worked for me. So to do that, step 1 is really identify who your dream companies are. Make a short list. I have a short list today of where I would, if I was to ever leave Instagram, where would that be? And I always keep that in mind. So you make your list of dream companies. So for me, coming out of college, it was my dream agencies. I listed the top agencies in the world doing incredible advertising for the top brands in the world, right? So I had my short list, or this could be a short list of brands. When I was looking to go brand side, it went to a short list of brands. Like for me, they were Instagram, Nike, Airbnb, brands that I knew I really wanted to work on. And from here, this is the magic of LinkedIn. You can really identify your audience. You can click on your company, research them on LinkedIn, and the magic is up here, you can actually click and see all of their employees on LinkedIn. Obviously, it's awesome if you're connected with a few already, but you can literally go through and scroll through their titles. So then, for example, if you're looking to get a land in marketing, or land a job in marketing, or a job in strategy in my case, I literally went to TWA Worldwide, this agency that does all the advertising for Apple. And then I scrolled through people who worked in strategy. For example, people like Kyle or Jared McDavis. And so from there, you really identify your company, your position, and you want to connect with people in influence. So ideally, a director level and above has hiring power. But you can always shoot your shot with senior level people. Entry level, it's great people to know them, but you really want somebody that can vouch for you and help you get hired. So using this approach, you make your short list in summary of brands or companies you want to work at. And you then go on LinkedIn and really start targeting people. And you find ways to connect with them. So first off, with LinkedIn today, it's no problem just sending a request to connect with anyone. It doesn't matter if they accept you or not. But LinkedIn for me is really just used to identify people. Where the magic happens for me is actually Twitter. So once I've identified who these people are, or people, and I normally identify probably 5 to 10 at each company that I want to try and connect with, I would then request them on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn isn't where the magic happens for me, because I feel like on LinkedIn, when people add you or get connected to you, they're always either trying to sell you something or they're trying to get hired by you. And it comes off really clear and it feels very transactional. So that's why I go to Twitter. And I go to Twitter because Twitter is actually the only place it's not weird to hit up people you don't know. Twitter is where the hashtag originated, and it was it was the place for people just to connect over certain subjects. So hashtag strategy, hashtag marketing, hashtag accounting, whatever you want to work in, people talk about it there, right? So I go to Twitter, after I've identified these people, and this is where you just kind of start shooting your shot on trying to connect with people. And your magic word as a student, and actually for the rest of your life, is actually going to be for career advice. You don't DM these people, you don't tweet at these people on Twitter, or even message them on LinkedIn and say, hire me. Nobody's going to hire you that way, because it just comes off as like just trying to sell yourself without getting to know them. You really need to connect with them first. And my magic word is always asking for career advice, because that makes everybody want to talk to you. Asking someone for career advice is flattering. If somebody asks me for career advice, I'm flattered, and I use it to basically flatter other people, but also be like, hey, you're working at a company I want to learn from. You're at a place I'd like to be. I'd love some advice. And that makes everybody want to talk to you. And so some example, this is a starter template, and feel free to screenshot this and use it on your own. This is basically the template I use when I hit up people at Twitter, people I want to connect with. I start with tagging them and saying @, and the magic of Twitter, I'll call out right now, you can tweet at people and no one will see it. The only people that will see it are people that follow you and that person. So for example, if you're following this person on Twitter you've never connected with, only you and them will probably see it. So I'd use @their handle, and then I would say, hey, I love your points or your work in blank. And this just shows you've done your research. So they'll actually be like, wait, this person actually knows who I am. So Google their name, Google the work that they've done at their company, Google their name and their company, or just look at their LinkedIn and the projects they've done. And I love starting out with like, hey, I love what you did here, or I love your work on this. So when I reached out originally to TWH Day, I said, hey, Rohit, I loved your work on Airbnb, and I love what you did here. And from there, I go into this deeper part of really what I'm trying to get after, where I tell them my story, that I'm reaching a turning point in my career or trying to kickstart my career. And I would love some career advice if you're open to it. Also leave it very open. People are really busy. It's up to them to get back to you. And then from there, I dive into, would you perhaps be open to a quick call sometime in the next few weeks? And that makes it really specific of what you ask in that moment. This template has worked wonders for me, but it is also a numbers game. It's like sales. If you're trying to land a sale, you'll knock on a lot of doors until you sell something. So just shooting this shot, I would say my response rate is probably 10%. So for every 10 of these, I tweet at people, which takes me 2 minutes. 1 or 2 people respond to me, and then it turns into a phone call. And that's where a lot of magic happens. So once again, Twitter is definitely my little shortcut for this. And these are some examples of how it's worked for me in different stages of my career. When I was still at Utah State, I was applying to be a strategy intern at the top strategy internship in advertising in New York City. And I tweeted at the CEO, and the CEO saw it and he replied. That was the CEO of that agency at that point. But it's worked many other times in my career. 2 or 3 years later, that same person I tweeted at originally at Day DM'd me from when I had tweeted at him originally. We had hopped on a phone call, and he DM'd me 2 years later saying, hey, can you chat? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. And he asked if I was still looking to move out to LA, and he gave me a job offer over the phone, and I moved to LA 2 days later. So that was a big moment. And then even brand side. So this one's a little more interesting. I tagged the chief marketing officer of Facebook. So the leader of a marketing org that is huge and global, and a very iconic marketing leader in the industry that I really look up to. I tagged him in a tweet saying, oh, I would love to work from him and learn from him someday. It was actually pretty casual. And he followed me after he saw my tweet. He favorited it. And then he DM'd me saying, hey, be careful what you wish for. Send me your resume. And that led to my first interview at Facebook, which led me to go into Instagram a few years later. So this shows actually the magic of Twitter, is that at least in marketing and a lot of industries, a lot of people have Twitter. It doesn't even matter if they're active on it, but if you tweet at them, it's literally a shortcut right to their pocket. It goes right to their phone. I tweeted at the CMO of Facebook, And he replied. That was a more direct way to him than even email, and I didn't have his email. So that worked to get an interview at Facebook. And then actually to land at Instagram now, I love to share this one, is I hit up Melissa Waters, she was actually the CMO at a different company. And I said, hey, I would love just to connect and get career advice. And that led to me having a phone call with her and building this relationship that when she took the CMO role at Instagram, she's like, Jeremy, I need you here. We need you to come here, right? So I can tap all the biggest moves in my career, from kickstarting my career and landing in New York at that internship doing strategy, which led to my first agency job, to Rohit, which was actually my dream job, working in LA at TWA Shy a Day on brand like Airbnb and Apple, to the CMO of Facebook getting back to me because I tweeted at him, to the CMO of Instagram, who's now my boss. All this happened because I use this approach. And I really challenge you guys to think about how you can use this in your life, because really connecting with people can be really easy with Twitter and LinkedIn. You can shoot your shot on Twitter all day and it takes you 5 minutes to tweet at 2 or 3 people. And I do that actually to this day. I'm still trying to always connect and learn from other people. Another idea, this is just another idea if you're really finding a way to stand out to land your dream job straight out of college. It's always good to be creative, especially in marketing. These were some ideas I did to stand out that definitely got me on people's radar. I sent a cake to a brand once and I said, hey, QR codes are dead, but cake is timeless. And the QR code led them to my resume. One thing that helped me stand out and actually get me that dream job in LA is this little image in the middle is a Facebook ad I made, and I targeted people at a company, and it led to that conversation as well. I found other creative ways to stand out to people where I actually identified people on LinkedIn in certain titles. And then instead of, if I couldn't find their Twitter, I tried just Venmoing them. It was so easy to find them on Venmo. I was like, hey, here's $15 in advance for a coffee that I would love to pick your brain and get some career advice for. And that led to a phone call. And then when I was in deeper interviews, I was in interviews with TikTok, and I was trying to really get on the radar of the CMO. I got really stunty, and I actually hired Carol Baskin from Tiger King. I hired her on an app called Cameo to vouch for me in my resume, which was kind of just a fun little stunt. But it's all about, if you don't know anybody in your industry, you have to find a way to steal people's attention, whether it's flattering them and asking hey, I want career advice, which is really true, or finding stunty ways to get on your radar. So once again, you don't have to do this, but this is a little bit of a creative dare of what can you do to stand out to people you're trying to connect with and get hired by. But the summary of this opportunity is I feel very lucky and blessed to be where I'm at in my career. And I've worked on some projects that were dreams of mine when I was in college at Utah State. But all these opportunities didn't happen because I knew anybody. It's because I built my network with this strategy. And that's my challenge to you guys. Never say, I don't know anybody, or I don't know anybody in this industry or at this company. Your network is really only limited by your creativity. And so that's my challenge to you guys, is to think as big. What are the dream companies you want to work at? What is the impact you want to have on the business world? And use these opportunities to break in and make your own luck in a way that I did. So that was step one of how do you create opportunities to sell yourself, of how do you connect with these people. Once you've actually used this strategy to have phone calls with people, doesn't even matter if they're hiring at this point, or it's even better if they have an open job position. How do you truly connect with them? And this is why I really want to double down of connecting with people is the most important part to land a dream job, not selling yourself. You have to connect with them first. You need to prove that you don't view them as just a ticket in the door. So how do you truly connect with them? And at the top of the slide, it says offering value is more important than attention. And so going back to those stunts I talked about a few minutes ago, those were fun. Those got me on my radar. But the ones that really actually turned into jobs was when I focused less on doing stunts to get their attention and focused more on finding ways to offer value to people, just proactively. And I'll go into that next. So next is connection strategy. So whether this is going into an interview you already have, or a networking event you're going to go to, or if you just have a phone call with someone to get career advice, this is a strategy that I use every day on how to truly connect with people. And I use it not only when I'm looking for a job, I use it every time I'm networking, every time I have a new meeting, every time I'm trying to make allies at my new job, I use this strategy. So I'm going to dive into these 3 steps that really have made my career. Obviously, getting on people's radar and getting a phone call is only step 1. That's just creaking open the door, but how do you get in the door? So there are these 3 steps that I use to connect with people. And as I said, I use it when I'm just getting career advice, when I'm meeting new coworkers, or when I'm trying to land my dream job. So these are the 3 steps that I'll break out that I want you guys to remember. And I also need to give full credit that back when I was in college at Utah State, I had hit up somebody at a big agency through Twitter, through that strategy I pointed out to you guys. And he actually gave me this advice. So this person, his name is Nicholas Fuller. If he ever sees this, he was the VP of New Business at Ogilvy, which is a global agency, super incredible company he was working at. And his job is to actually sell and land new clients all the time. And he actually gave me this strategy. And he gave me this strategy. This is how you truly connect with people, whether they're future clients or future employers or future jobs. And so these 3 steps are his, and I've taken them to heart and applied them every day of my life. So the first one of these 3 steps is to connect personally, which is basically find common ground. This is the easiest part. With Google and LinkedIn and Twitter, it's really easy to find common ground with people, but have some starters written down in your notes before you have this meeting. So look up where are they from, what are their interests, what is their school, what is their mutual friends. It can be anything. At this point, when I interview with people, I've gotten connected to so many people in the industry. I look at what mutual Facebook friends we have. Because that's a huge starting point of mutual friends. Or if you don't have that, anything that just establishes common ground. You both like the same sports team. You both like sushi. You both traveled somewhere recently because you saw something on their Instagram. Or you just love their work. Google their name and find some way to establish common ground. Don't just dive right into the hard sell. Next is really connecting professionally. And that's really asking about them about what are their common goals and what they want to do. So this will really set you up to the most important point in this step, which is next. But it's really ask them questions and make them feel like you actually care about them, not that you just want something from them. So ask them, what are you trying to accomplish next? What are you trying to accomplish next professionally or personally? What challenges are in the way of that? What's your biggest challenge in doing that? And what challenge are you chewing on right now? And the goal of step 2 is to really show that you're here to offer value proactively, and that's going to lead them to wanting to work with you. And so the 3rd step, really set up by that 2nd step, is to earn their trust by offering value. That's how you get hired, is you offer value before you're hired. You give them information that will really help them from the get-go. So this goes into when I first got these 3 steps of connecting personally by finding common ground, connecting professionally by finding common goals, and then finding ways to offer value. I used to ask, how can I help you? But asking somebody that on a call isn't really effective. If you're talking to a VP or a director at a big company and you're new or you're younger, it's hard to really know like what value can you really offer. If you ask them that, they're not even sure. You really need to be proactive and really identify their goals and their challenges and be like, hey, could I do this? Would this offer value to you? You need to throw ideas at the wall. And so based on this, you identify personal, professional goals. You ask what challenges they are up against in accomplishing those goals, like these questions in step 2. And then you proactively offer ideas and solutions to find something that sticks. And that's when you follow up. You follow up with an email if you have a reason to prop up and prove that you're not just taking from them. You're not just trying to just view them as their ticket. And you show them that you're worth taking a chance on by earning their trust because you're already offering value. I'll give you a small example of this. This could be a lot of different ways. Say you want to work at Gatorade. Say that's your dream brand, or Nike. And Nike is all obsessed about how do they really appeal with Gen Z or generation. You could ask them like, hey, what are your challenges if you're talking to somebody at Nike? What are your challenges of really connecting with Gen Z today? Like what are your goals? One of their goals is to connect with them, but what are your challenges? And they'd probably spell out 1 or 2 things. And be like, okay, what if I did some research and interviewed some of my colleagues or some people I know in that age group of how you could solve that? And go away and do some research and send them, hey, this is what I found, and try to offer them value or insight that's going to help them do their job better. I've done this a lot of different ways, from professionally doing research on a subject for the CMO of Spotify. I sent him some work that led to a great relationship, to Melissa Waters. When I connected with her, I built a relationship over time, and then she was actually interviewing for the CMO job at Instagram, and she wanted my point of view as she was prepping for her interview. Another example, I was interviewing at a company that ended up giving me an offer, and I asked them what their main challenge was, and their challenge was really to make privacy matter for their users. And when I asked him what their biggest challenge was, he said making privacy matter, because privacy is really a first world problem. And so based on that, I went and did research of how other brands had taken on the subject of privacy. And I sent him a follow-up email with like, hey, here are 3 or 4 ways other brands are doing this. Hopefully this kickstarts your thinking. And he literally said, wow, this is brilliant. You're already offering value to my team. If things don't work out on Instagram, you have a job here. So that was a job I kind of had in my back pocket, but that led to me just proactively offering value. And this doesn't always have to be professionally as well. You can find ways to offer value in their personal life. When I asked one person what they wanted to do next, he was a CMO and he was giving me his time. He said, I'm really accomplished professionally. He's like, honestly, I just need to travel. I've been putting it off. I've been telling him to take my wife to Italy. And one way I found a way to follow up and offer value to him was I'm really good at finding travel deals. And I found a great deal on a ticket to Italy. And I was like, hey, you're losing money if you don't go right now. You need to book this trip. And I just followed up with that, and he did. And that was a small way to show, hey, I care about him. And it led to a long-lasting relationship. So once again, if there's anything you remember from this presentation, it's this slide. Feel free to screenshot it. And before every meeting and every interview, I actually write down these 3 sections: common ground, common goals, and offer value. And I literally have a little bit of a strategy of how I can do that for them. Next, and the last section, which we should dive into, is selling strategy. So how do you actually sell yourself and your story? And I'll go through this section pretty quickly, but that was the main prompt when I originally talked to Utah State, is like, how can we help our students sell ourselves? And there is a magic that comes to that. And after learning how to sell myself over the last 10 years, when I was an agency and always pitching clients and trying to sell myself for them to hire me, to actually recently landing my dream job at Instagram, these are some points that hopefully you found helpful in doing that. So the building blocks of your pitch for selling yourself, these are a few inputs that I think will really help you focus your pitch and really make you memorable and somebody that the team would want to bring on. So first off, this is table stakes, is prove that you're qualified for the role and show why they'd be lucky to have you. And so this is really study the job description or study their company, understand what they're trying to do. It's amazing what you can learn from Google. Companies' goals for the year are normally listed. So just find a way to do that. And then based off that, really answer the question, what have you done that makes you uniquely qualified? What internships or life experiences do you have that makes you more qualified than anybody else gunning for this role? Also based off that, what are your top 2 to 3 home runs that you've done? Really simplify, what are the 2 to 3 biggest things that make you qualified to be a great marketer, accountant, whatever you want to do? What are your top 2 to 3 home runs, and how can you speak to those eloquently and succinctly? Next, what are you great at, and what can you offer that others can't? Really have your pitch down, and I normally have it written in a small section of my notes going into an interview. So I remember my key points and how to land them. And the point of this is, if you don't know the value that you can offer them, you can be sure they won't, right? You need to know what offer you can value and really have a really succinct pitch on why they'd be lucky to have you. So that's step 1, and that's table stakes for any interview. Next is really, this is my strategy for interviewing, is you really just need to fascinate people and lean into what makes you different. In a competitive environment, the most fascinating option always wins. Really, it's your difference that is your competitive advantage. And this is something I learned from top chief marketing officers in my industry. This is a tactic I learned from them. Of really what personal experiences or unique things about you from your life can you wrap into your pitch around yourself? That's kind of the bow on top. A great example, so really ask what unique or obscure experiences have happened to you personally, and how can you spin those and apply them to your career? What makes you unique is what makes you fascinating and stand out. So a great example here is there is a chief marketing officer. He used to work at Apple and Nike, and now he's the chief marketing officer of GoFundMe. And his example for this is he talked about how he always liked to make people happy. That's his personal experience, but he loved the idea of selling happiness so much that he was a marketer when he was in college. And he even says that he sold fake IDs in college. And even though that's provocative and something you normally wouldn't say, he's like, I sold fake IDs in college. So my goal was always to sell happiness. I was unlocking a world of going out to all these people by getting them this ID. And that's something that a very unique experience that he shares that makes it unforgettable, and it makes him stand out in interviews. And it's one reason he's excelled so well, is not only is he an incredible marketer, not only does he have these home runs he said, but he's like, even from the get-go, he's not afraid to be provocative to sell himself in his story. So my story of how I apply this in my life is, as you may have heard in the introduction of, I kind of pitch myself as having an untraditional background because I have experience in addiction recovery. And so when I heard this strategy, I was like, what makes me unique or fascinating to people? And to be honest, it's in my world, there's not a lot of people, because I work outside of Utah, that served a mission. So when I served my 2-year mission in South America, I did a lot of addiction recovery. I got super involved in that, and I had a lot of impact doing that. And that's something that actually lit up my approach to strategy, because strategy is really about identifying the motivations that drive people to make change, whether it's to buy something or to do something. And I really spun my experience from my mission of, I don't really ever talk about that it was my mission. I just talk about, I was in South America and I was doing addiction recovery courses, which I was doing. And if I can help identify the motivations that help people get off heavy drugs, then I can identify the motivations that will make them want to consider why they should be an athlete and why they should wear Nike shoes and things like that. So that's my spin, and it works really well for me because it's really true to me. It's what makes me unique. And my fascination with that space and the impact I felt in working in it on my mission actually led to me consulting the addiction recovery space later when I'd started my career. But I really lean into that because that makes me unique. And it taps into my career because it's all about identifying the motivations that drive people to make decisions in their life. So that's how I try to fascinate people and lean into what makes me different. But what is that for you? That's my challenge for you guys to think about. What is the unique experience you had? It could be something you happened when you were younger or when you were in college, or just something that makes you stand out of a crowd. And lean into the areas that maybe even you're originally kind of shy to talk about them, and think about, is there a way I can apply this to my career? And in a way that can be your superpower. I originally was really hesitant of talking about religion interviews and talking about my mission. And I realized, but I knew addiction recovery was kind of like my secret sauce of what made me different. So I spun it, and I never talk about my mission. I just talk about that I worked in addiction recovery, and that is what makes me fascinating. And that's what's led to me standing out in a lot of the competitive roles I've interviewed for. And lastly, this is really the most important part of an interview that will make you land a job, that when I interview people, is I want to hear their unique point of view. I want to hear something that I can't unhear. And that's my challenge to you. If you're interviewing at your dream company, really do your research of knowing what they're trying to do and come in with a provocative point of view of something that they should consider doing. Shoot your shot. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, but show you're already thinking about the problem. So do some research on the role, find a unique consumer insight or opportunity that they may have not considered, and say, hey, have you guys considered this? That's your unique point of view. Get them thinking. When I've had people even straight out of college be like, hey, have you guys considered this? I'll be like, yes, maybe we have. Or if it's something that we haven't and they push on it and actually give me something to think on, it makes me feel like we need to hire them already. And the goal here is to show that you're already thinking about them. And really the end goal is make them worried or scared that if they don't hire you, their competition will. And if you already have those proactive ideas, you're already an asset to their team, and they don't want you playing for the other team. So in the end, that's the summary of my presentation. These are the 3 strategies that have literally led me to where I'm at, from leaving Logan, Utah for school, to starting my career in New York and being there a couple of years, to moving to LA, working on my dream brands, living kind of my dream life, and now landing at my dream brand at Instagram and working on some incredible, super fulfilling work. All this didn't happen because I knew somebody. All this didn't happen just because I applied online. It was all because I really kind of got after it and used these strategies to kickstart my career, to truly connect with people. And that's the TLDR of this whole presentation, is really always focus on how can you connect with people. If you want to sell yourself, truly connect with them, find common ground, understand what they're trying to do, and then really just find ways to offer value. That extra step of being provocative and adding a point of view and finding ways to offer value with challenges they're currently facing, that is what has put me over the line in every interview. Because I'll be honest, a lot of these interviews in these places that I've interviewed, I've been against really steep talent and probably people that were more talented than me. But because I went the extra mile and found ways to proactively offer value, that's really why I got the job offers and how I landed where I am today. So that's my presentation, and thanks everyone for coming. And I guess we'll open it now for questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy. We use the term nugget for knowledge, but I think this is an entire brick of wisdom and tons of information that you shared that's really helpful and very strategic ways. I think that's really great for students who might be struggling from that initial message and reach out, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Handshake, LinkedIn, or wherever, to that building of the connection. I love that connection block. So we do have a couple of questions from the chat. specifically around that truly connecting, and what are some of those solutions and how you come up with those. So I wanted to focus on Kennedy's question of, do you run these solutions by another colleague or a friend, a mentor before sending that to your connection?
Yes, sometimes. Well, it really depends. So if I'm understanding this correctly, basically we identified a challenge on a call, and I've done some homework, and I'm going to send them to that follow up in an email, right? So offering value. Yes, if you're not sure and you're not confident about it, yes, always get a second pair of eyes. I would say most of the time I just felt confident, like, hey, I understand their challenge. This should give them a new way of thinking. But when I send it, I always leave it really open, like, hey, hopefully this offers value. This is me taking a swing at it. I'm always really humble about it. But sometimes I am really nervous. And when that does happen, I do consult others. When I was interviewing with a CMO who was just super intimidating, I did get a job at that company, and that's probably why, because I was scared of him. When I would mock up my email of like, hey, I think this, and this is tight. I did approach other friends or colleagues that knew this space, like, hey, do you think this offers value? And I'm always open for feedback. So that's a great idea. If you want to get feedback on it, yes, always good to tighten your pitch. But also don't feel pressured. This is proactive. They're not paying you for this, right? It's so don't feel pressured that it needs to be perfect. But your goal is just to find some way to be like, oh, well, they're already thinking about my problem.
So one of the questions that we have is, if you're an introvert who struggles with talking with a lot of people, what's some advice? What are some strategies to get over that initial blockade of being shy?
The digital world has made it a lot easier to be an introvert. And so my advice to introverts, well, I'm extremely extroverted, so I kind of just have fun doing this all day. But if you're introverted, a few pieces of advice is just have a game plan. I've had some employees that were more introverted, and to help them speak up in meetings, we always like, hey, write down your take beforehand. Come prepared, right? So you don't have to come up with it on the spot. So my advice to introverts is, like, first off, shooting a tweet online that nobody's going to see unless it's you and them. Like, don't overthink it. No one's going to see that. I to this day, I do that all the time, and I probably get a 10% response rate, but it's opened so many doors for me. So number one, take the pressure out of it. And then number two, just like be prepared, as I was hitting on earlier. Write down, how are you going to truly connect with them personally, professionally, and offer value? Have that written down on a piece of paper, on a sticky note, on your hand, or in your phone, and literally have the guidebooks of the questions you want to ask beforehand, so it doesn't feel like you have to make it up on the fly. And so writing that down beforehand is just as effective as writing down the key points you want to talk about in a meeting beforehand, so you're not thinking on the spot. So hopefully that helps.
Great. What are some common mistakes? You mentioned all of these fantastic strategies, but what are some mistakes that you've seen that people make when trying to make connections with potential employers?
The first one is people try to sell themselves too hard. And that's actually why I retitled this presentation, because it's not, if somebody's trying to sell themselves to me, it just rubs me the wrong way. Like, it comes off spammy. Like, I'm not trying to buy you. It comes off too hard. So don't come in guns a-blazing and be like, I want you to hire me. No. You really need to connect, build that common ground, find a way to offer value. And once you've done that, they're going to know you want to work for them, and they're going to already know you want to work for them. And you don't even have to ask, or you can ask, be like, hey, now that I've offered value, any thoughts on if I was wanting to work at your company and how I should stand out? So don't go in guns a-blazing and be like, hire me. That just comes off as just like a really rough, uncomfortable sale. It's like going on a first date with somebody and then saying, hey, will you be my boyfriend on the first date? And you're like, what? Or your girlfriend, right? It's like too much. So common mistake is, don't sell yourself too hard. Focus on connecting and offering value, and that's what sells you more than anything else. And then the other common mistake that I hit on a little bit, which was an insight I realized after doing it for years, I used to end those calls with, how can I help you? But if I'm a kid 2 years into my career talking to the chief marketing officer of Spotify at this moment, he's not going to know how I can help him. So you really need to just be proactive, right? I identify what their challenges are. I'm like, hey, could I do this? I want to find a way to help you. Would this be helpful? Answer that question for them. They have to be proactive, because if people ask me today, hey, how can I help you? And they're interviewing me, like, I don't know how to answer that. So those are probably the two most common mistakes I would see when people try to apply this work.
Great. So for any of us academic-minded folks or need something that's written down, resource in front of us, do you have any books or resource recommendations about personal branding, connecting, job search strategies in that professional space?
That's a really interesting quote. I've read a few books on the subject, but I'm not sure if any really come to mind. It's really there's one. It may be a Kobe book, how to make friends and influence people. I think I read that when I was in college, which is helpful. Which is a lot of these steps again is like common ground and offer value, but nothing really comes to mind besides those. But yeah, like hopefully you can screenshot this deck and you don't need to read anything else. But if there's anything else that comes to mind, I'll think on that.
Great. And one final question for students who hope to connect to you in the future. Can they?
Yes. Follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. It's just at Jeremy Schumann. But Twitter, it has done more for my career than LinkedIn ever has. That's my plug for Twitter. So do it. Tweet at me that if you want to have a phone call sometime, I'm open to do that as well. I really believe that karma is a real thing and that I'm only where I'm at today because people open the door for me. So if I can open the door for anybody in the future, I would love to find a way to do so. So feel free to look me up on LinkedIn, Jeremy Schumann, or Twitter, which is just at Jeremy Schumann as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. We've loved having you on with us today. For those watching, just a reminder, we have our Career Expo coming up on September 23rd and 24th. Starting next week, we do have our drop-in resume reviews happening at the start desk for our students. And then next week, Friday, same time, same place, we have another Backpack to Briefcase about how to leave the Career Expo with a job offer. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.